Dudes, what is happening, man? This is Trent, and yeah, I do a lot of painting stuff on the YouTube these days. But recently, I got my hands on a HTC Vive, which is a virtual reality setup, and it comes with a handy painting, well, digital VR painting tool called Tiltbrush by Google, some company called Google, and I guess they make painting tools now for virtual creativities. Anyway, what's neat about Tilt Brush is that you're actually painting in 3D space. So if you can think of it like you're just sort of posting cardboard in midair, and then it just kind of stacks on top of each other. I wish that it had a little bit more of like a smudge tool or a blending tool, because sometimes, as you can see, they almost come out like paint strips or like paper strips. And it would be neat if they could actually blend to become a solid, softer object. I wanted to do something that was comfortable, so I did a massive 6-foot head. I don't know if that's comfortable, but I used to draw a lot of things like orcs for work and stuff like that, so it was a pretty comfortable thing for me to draw and grasp and have a handle on. The neat thing is you can hit replay, and it replays the whole video in sort of a sped up time. But I wanted to show you guys how some of the brush stuff works. And so I did a little bit, a section here, even after I replayed the whole thing, which it does speed it up. But then I went in and I was like, I'm going to give them like a badass, like a goatee or something. So in a second, you're going to see me pull up the palettes and try out some of the other brushes. But you can see how it's basically just these strips of paint, and they're layered on top of each other. And I sort of like build out from them to almost as if I'm modeling with clay, and it creates a full sense of 3D space. What's really cool is if you can, and I need to figure out how to do this, how to share the actual files with you so that you could sit in the VR space that I'm standing in while the painting is coming together. I used a mirror effect to get most of this, and then with the goatee here, as you can see, you got like a color picker and various brush modes and things like that, and you just kind of like paint in. I got lost in this. I was listening to the soundtrack for Skyrim, I think, and just having a good time in VR. I think this drawing, the head, I spent about 30 minutes on it. The other one that I did, the elf head, which you're going to see in a second, I spent a little bit more time on. As you can see, you can also pull up to create thumbnails. It pulls up a little like camera kind of a thing. The potential for VR is astounding, especially with creative ventures. The opportunity to do something in 3D space without necessarily moving around a mouse, like it's just intuitive. It's like I see it in my head as a three-dimensional object, and I just literally move my arm over to the space where that would be, and extrude whatever it is that I want to extrude, whether it's hair fibers or a muscle over the eye or something like that. I had to stand inside of his head to do the hair because it got up to be about 6 or 7. Well, it was over my head, and I actually banged the controller against the ceiling when I was painting this. It'd be really cool if you could make just full-on walkable adventures in VR space doing this sort of a thing. I would love to keep doing these and really pushing the boundaries and the limitations of what can be done in terms of creating a story kind of an experience with VR sketches as well. I tried several different angles because I wanted to show you guys kind of just how much depth and dimension this thing has. I found that economy of line became very important, and you can tell with this one. By the way, I'm just kind of like, there's a teleportation ability or a teleportation button that allows you to jump around to any location around the object. And I wanted to show you a lot of different angles as it was being painted. And there are glow effects for some of the brushes and fire and things like that. Absolutely play around with it if you get a chance. But going back to what I was saying about economy of your brush strokes, I found that you really have to pay attention to which surfaces are going to catch light, and which objects or which surfaces need to be bold or flat versus having these smaller details. And different brushes are also going to reflect light differently. There is actually a cardboard or like a paper setting, which is also pretty cool. So this was my elf drawing, and just to kind of give you a sense of the depth, at one point I actually walked right through this one. This was the very first thing that I sketched using Tiltbrush, and it turned out okay. I think that it started out as a little bit more monstery, and then it kind of became very feminine, and then it became more monstery again. So I lost a little bit of the original intention with it. But as I said, this was just like me playing around. I had never used anything like this before. This is the closest thing I can relate it to is if you were modeling with clay, I guess, like clay that is lit and has different effects. I really am eager to see where this technology goes, where Tiltbrush specifically takes it, because it's such a basic, simple kind of a program. In fact, I mean, in terms of other features, there's so many opportunities for, as I mentioned before, like blending between your brush strokes, or applying a little bit more of a mesh, or even grabbing an object and flipping it around so that you could work on minute details. There's also blending color. What if you could actually blend? Right now you can't really blend colors together, and in fact when you lay down a color, it's affected by whatever light the room is in the room, and you can choose which room. Like there's an outdoor setting on the snow, there's a setting in a museum type of an environment, there's just of course being in like outer space, but that's a little disorienting because there's no floor. But what if you could take a large scale painting such as what I've done here, and then scale that down into something that is maybe only 2 feet wide, or life size, and then go and like work on the arm, or work on the collar, or a hand, and then ultimately have this incredibly highly detailed object. But it lacks, right now it doesn't have a lot of those kind of features that would allow you to grab groupings of brush strokes, for instance. And that's one thing. There's another factor would be moving an object after you've already painted it. There's no way to select all of your brush strokes or group them and then like move them to any other location. And I get it, I understand. I mean, they have to kind of go for something that's very accessible to a lot of people, because VR is this whole new thing. Like most people in their lifetimes have not had any exposure to this sort of painting tool. You can see here where my economy align was crappy. That's where the Orc, I got a little better. I got a little better at the economy align in the next one. So that kind of wraps up my first experience with a Tiltbrush. It's an awesome tool. If you are considering VR, I went Vive because it's a full room experience. You got controllers, you can walk around your room, and it's a very awesome, like, immersive experience. I totally lose track of time. Sometimes I'll be in it for 3 hours and not even realize it. Overall, tip top if you can afford it. It's a sweet deal. I can't wait to see what I can do with it. I can't wait to see the new tools that are coming out for it. I'm not super handy with doing 3D with a mouse, so something where I can modify and build models in virtual 3D space sounds really cool to me, especially if you can create full experiences. I love telling stories, and it'll be really incredible if I can share a story experience with people in 3D space. And if I can find a way to share these tilt brush paintings with you guys, I will post the link in the space below the video. But for now, for me and my Orc and Elf virtual reality sketches in Tiltbrush, that's it for today. And no matter what you do, dudes, remember, if you're gonna create something, don't just call it in. No, man. If you're gonna create with passion. All right, until next time, dudes, ciao.